Hi everyone, this video is going to be a continuation of a video that was actually one of the recent private Patreon backer videos where we started making this project, which is originally and going to be also a classic Amiga game project made in Amos. But Corey, who is here with me in this video, say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going?
We're going to create this very quickly, create the whole game in Construct 2, a modern, very easy-to-use authoring system that allows for very fast production of 2D games, even by non-programmers. We're two artists. This way, we can get ahead of the game, so to speak, with finalizing the game design, finalizing all of the art, and we're actually creating all of this art with the very specific Amiga technical constraints, like following those rules. So we're actually creating all of the Amiga art that we'll need when that way when I work with Mike Ness to work on the Amiga version, we have all the art ready sort of ahead of time to work on the next features and to keep adding things, and we'll have the full designed game so that Mike Ness, who's doing most of the coding in Amos, will be able to see exactly what behavior he needs to emulate to finish the game on the classic Amiga end. So anyway, let me just run it quickly and show you what we have so far. Okay, so these borders are to keep the exact actual Amiga game resolution, and we can release this version of the game once it's done on things like tablets, and the gray border represents where the tablet screen would be for the most part, and then that gives us room to add touch buttons for touch control on tablets. So we could have the D-pad here and some buttons here, and pause, reset, mute, all of that can be. Eventually it won't be gray, it'll be a nicely designed graphical border around the game for that version of the game, for the tablet version. So right now we just got in the last video, which again private patrons on our Patreon account can see it start literally from scratch in Construct 2, and this is how far we got. So we have the HUD visible, and we have the different layers of scrolling set up, and right now the character can just walk, jump, and stand, and plays the appropriate animations. So that's where we left off. Go ahead, Corey.
I was about to say, I'm particularly loving those foreground trees that you made here.
Yes, some of the art will be placeholder until I can retrieve the more finished art that is currently in the Amiga version. But that is, in other words, eventually everything will be as good as those foreground trees. Just kidding. But anyway, yeah, so that's how it's going so far. And also there's another private Patreon video very recently of an actual full-length scrum that which is a production or pre-production meeting that Corey and I had, where we finalized the visual aesthetic we would be going for in this game, its major overall plot, decided on some specific themes for enemies, and we figured out how to tie in this game with a franchise that we had already created. We worked it out how to work it all into the same world and part of cohesive history, which is pretty cool. So yeah, hopefully I'll make sure to link to this video, even though this video will be public, in my Patreon channel, so my Patreon backers who saw those original videos can continue where they left off. The only other thing I've done since that video is I fixed the overall screen size and the size of the gray border. When in the original video when we started, I didn't remember the exact resolution of the total screen that I wanted to go with. So since then, I figured out that exact resolution and tweaked the position of everything and the size of the gray border. So now, what we're going to do today is we're going to start adding other elements, specifically the one enemy that we have so far for the game, And we're going to see if we can actually make it so we can punch that enemy, like it'll appear on screen flying toward us, and we should be able to punch it and hit the enemy and destroy it with one punch. So let me get started with that. The first thing I need to do, I'm going to make sure I'm in the FG layer, and I'm going to double click. In fact, I'm thinking maybe I will actually add this to the sprite layer, even though it's not a sprite, because like I don't want any of these enemies to exist as soon as the frame starts. I want it to exist once you scroll to a certain point. So I'll just create the enemies in here. So now I'm going to, let's see, import frames from files. And, oh good, we're in the right folder. That's always good. So we're going to load in this flying animation. And we're going to delete that blank frame. And the frames are all different sizes, so I have to carefully place the hotspot for each frame. It doesn't have to be perfect yet, but so I'm going to put it right in this sort of center of gravity in this actual little torso. There we go. That'll be close enough for now, and then we can actually give him a more careful collision box, because this is a little overkill here. Something like that. And then I can right click and apply to whole animation. So now that box should be on the whole animation, but oh, it's doing it proportionally. That's interesting. I didn't realize it did that. Did you notice the box is actually shrinking as the frame shrinks? I had no idea it did that. Let me see if I can select multiple points, maybe with Control or Shift. Yeah. So I can tweak the box. And again, like for now we're just getting it to work. We can perfect and tweak these sorts of things later. That's fine. That has to go up.
That is one of the more lucrative game industry jobs, box tweaker.
Yes, exactly.
Never interested in.
Little known fact: we're offering an online course. It's just $20,000 a year. Let's see. All right. Just wait till you see the impressed looks on everyone's faces when you tell them you're a graduate of the BitBeamCannon box tweaking school of game design. I guarantee you they will be surprised. You will see bulging eyes. That's how impressed.
You want that on your resume.
You really do.
So,
all right. Let's see. And we'll even send you a PDF diploma that you can print out. That's, I mean, we spare no expense. It might not have your actual name on it, but you can type that in yourself. All right, so we have, there's the enemy. We're going to name it Bat. No, we're going to name it Batty. All right, so there he is, and we're going to start giving him some behaviors. I'm assuming it's a him. All right, so let's see. What am I doing here? Behaviors. We want him to have the bullet behavior. Bullet. So the bullet behavior is useful if you want anything to move in a straight line in a direction. You can actually give it gravity, so it naturally falls like a cannonball or an arrow, which is very cool. But we do not want such things, so we'll leave gravity at 0, or at least we don't for this bat. And then set angle is, do you want the movement of the bat's angle to change with like the visual angle? Do you want the sprite to rotate based on the angle it's moving? Definitely not, since you could never do that on the Amiga without having a whole bunch of other frames in memory. And then so the speed, we're going to have to, we'll just go with something like 120 for now and see how that works out. And different ones in the gameplay are going to come onto the screen moving at different speeds, so it's harder to time, just to add variety to the gameplay. And that should be it for that setting, but now we're going to add another behavior, which will be sine wave movement somewhere. Let's say easy tween. Nope, that tricked me. All right, sine, and then sine wave movement. That'll give us a little bit of a bob to the movement. And I actually, come to think of it, that's not in the Amiga version yet, so we're already getting fancier than the Amiga version as it currently stands. But we'll see. So I would want to change this movement to vertical, and then period is how long it takes in seconds, so that's a really slow sine wave. We would want something more like maybe 0.8 of a second, maybe faster, we'll see. And then the magnitude is how many pixels in height that the sine wave is from top to bottom. And I'm going to guess we only want something around 8 to 10. We'll do 8 for now and see how we like that.
This is giving me flashbacks of the Medusa and Castlevania.
Yes, exactly.
Medusa heads that are really unfun.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
don't get me
indeed.
wrong. I think this is a totally different style of game.
Right, exactly, yeah. It definitely won't be as torturous and cause as much frustration as the Medusa heads. But anyway, so, but Castlevania is a fantastic franchise.
Oh, of course.
Disclaimer there. Alright, so, now that it exists in the construct project, we can decide to spawn it whenever we want to in the game level. But we want to figure out how we want to make the bat spawn. And one really nice way that's very elegant for game design, like as you know, we already set up a tile map object so we can actually, extend, let's see, so foreground, yes. Oh, it's hiding behind that red thing. I need to put that red thing on another layer just so I can hide it or something. Or I can change its Z order, that would work too. So I'll get out of this. And for now, I will click View, turn on the Z order bar, and I'll just hide this because we almost never need to see it. I'll hide it behind the tile map object, and now it doesn't get in our way when we want to edit things. And I need to extend this out. But just to show people, like we already have tile map editing abilities, and why is it? Oh no, it's not. It just created the illusion that it was offset improperly. It's because I have one type of tile that doesn't belong there. That's good enough, so I'll just extend this quickly a bit. But just to show, so like we have that, and then we also have the, or we're about to have the ability to, I'm going to create a new sprite, and this, I'll just scribble something in, but it doesn't need to be that big. That would be wasteful of memory. 48 by 48 is fine. And we are going to just flood fill it. And the gaudier the colors, the better, in my opinion. Let's see. So we'll do a red bat since it spawns a red bat. There we go, and flood fill that in, and put it, yeah, that's good. And so now I'm going to call this bat spawner, and we're just going to put one right here. Wow, 48 by 48 pixels is pretty huge in this low resolution game. Alright, so in fact I'll just quickly make it 32 by 32, that makes more sense. So resize 32 by 32. There we go. Okay, so that gives us a better feeling for the actual size of the actual enemy. I'm going to save my progress. You know how paranoid I am about losing progress from things like power outages and crashes. Okay, so now that we have the spawner here, we're going to create some events that whenever the spawner is within a certain distance from the edge of the screen, it will destroy the spawner and spawn one of the actual bat enemies. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we are going to, let's see, I'm going to close this group and I'm going to right click and add a group, and this will be spawn bats. And then in this group we will have, let's see, let's see what our options are for position. So we're going to compare the X, and we're going to say, is the X position less than or equal to, that's fine. And then for the X coordinate, we need system, and we need viewport right, so the right edge of the screen. Does that make sense? And then FG is the foreground layer, FG. So is the X coordinate less than the viewport right edge plus, we'll say 32 pixels, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to, I think right in here there's the ability to spawn other stuff, so there should be a spawn object under miscellaneous, I think, spawn another object. So then we just select the actual bat enemy, lovingly known as Batty. We'll spawn it on the same layer and at the image point of the box. And then we are going to destroy, under miscellaneous, destroy that spawner box. And everything's good for now except by default, where's the sprite? Okay. So we have a little bit of a contradiction here. By default, do you see how there's this, oh good, when you enlarge, oh, do you see how there's this little line in this white box? Mm-hmm. That represents the anchor point, and it also represents the angle of the sprite. Mm-hmm. And so by default, the sprite assumes that it's facing to the right, and it also assumes that the bullet movement or angle of movement would also, I believe, by default, is going straight to the right. So we can make that sort of consistent by, if I double click in here, can I do it to multiple frames? No, I can't. I don't think. Maybe there's a way. No, I think reverse frames reverses the order of the frames. Let's see. I know I can do it one at a time, so I'll just go up here and I will horizontally flip the frames so that they are facing right. All right. Let me make sure I did that right to all frames. Yep. Okay. And so now the what it thinks it's the way it's facing matches the way it would be moving by default. But of course, for now, we want them all being spawned on the right and flying to the left. So now what we need to do is, after the bat is spawned, we are going to I think it's under visibility or appearance, maybe set flipped. So we do want it flipped, and then is that it flipped? It's either flipped or mirrored. I'll bet it's mirrored. Yep, mirrored is horizontal. My apologies. So flipped is vertical. We don't want him flying upside down.
Oh, so they just use different names for vertical.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
that's strange.
I would have rather if it just said like X flip and Y flip, but or at least say X mirrored or and Y flipped. Oh, all right, I got that backwards. X mirrored or Y flipped. But anyway, so I don't need the C order thing anymore. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to set its angle of motion. And I always forget, but you can always remind yourself. Right here, you see the angle is 0. So I think 180 is going to be. Yeah, 180. Okay. So I just rotated it and looked over here, and it was roughly 180 when I tried to rotate it facing the other way. So let me go back to layer events, gameplay events, I mean. And we are going to go into the Batty, and we're going to go into set angle of motion under bullet, and we're going to do 180. And we're going to save the destroying of this thing till the end. And now it should work. So one time we will see when we scroll far enough, which should be pretty soon, pretty quickly. There we go. Oh, the frame, I forgot to set the frame to loop, but that worked nicely, as you saw. So I just need to go back to Spriter, not Spriter, the Spriter layer, I should say, and click the default animation. And we're just going to change loop to yes. So now we have an actual, now he'll loop his flying animation.
Okay.
All right, so now that the bat is in there and working, we're going to add another sprite, and this is going to be an explosion that can be used for the death of most enemies, so that we're saving memory. Remember, this is going to be a classic Amiga game as well, and we're trying to be as sparing as possible with memory usage. So I'm going to create another sprite, and I'm going to import frames, but this time we're going to do it from a sprite strip, and we're going to pick this explosion sheet. And number of horizontal and vertical cells is 2, and we'll check replace existing animation. That way it'll delete that blank frame automatically. Yes, I'm sure. And then because it was in a sprite strip, the hotspot can be exactly the same in each one, which is great, and so that's fine. Although actually I think I want to manually adjust it. I would like for it to feel like it's moving upward as the explosion occurs. Something more like this. There we go. And we do not want this animation to loop. However, actually, I will make it loop back on its own last frame. So let me show you how I would do that. I would select default, and I would choose yes, but you see how it says repeat 2?
Mm-hmm.
So there are 4 frames from 0 through 3. So if I make it repeat to 3, that means it's going to stay stuck on frame 3. All right?
Okay.
And the reason I did that is there is a behavior. I'm going to call this explosion or splosion. Oops. Did I miss my O? All right. Explosion. And let's see. We are going to... Actually, I'm going to put it in here just to stay consistent. So all of our different sprites will be in here, and spriter objects. And we are going to give it a behavior known as fade, even though we're not going to fade it. Because the cool thing we can do with fade, the only reason we're not going to fade it is the Amiga can't do actual like semi-transparency fades and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is activate at start yes, so as soon as it's created it's going to start doing this fade procedure. Fade in time we'll leave it 0, wait time. So I should have done the math here. So there's 4 frames, and the speed is frames per second. So we want this whole animation to last maybe a half a second. So let's assume a half a second for now. So that would be, it's 60 frames per second? Oh, it doesn't say, oh no, 60, yeah. Okay, usually 60. All right, so what would that be, 15? Yeah, 15 would be a quarter of a second.
So if
I think I got that right. Go ahead.
Did you say you wanted it to go like a half a second or a full second? Or...
Oh, that's yeah. You're right. That would be a full second, wouldn't it?
So it'd be something like 7 or 8.
Yeah,
probably would be.
Yeah, I was mathing it improperly. Yeah, technically it would be 7.5, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so we'll stick with that, and now we know that it lasts exactly a half a second.
Okay.
Right? So now what we can do is go back to its fade behavior, and we're going to give it a wait time of 0.5. So after exactly a half a second of existing, its fade out time is going to be 0.00001. So it's going to instantaneously disappear, basically. Right? and destroy after fade out. So it's automatically going to destroy itself after the length of time of its animation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think that will work. I think that's all set. So now we're going to go back to the gameplay events, and we are going to, I'm going to drag this into spawn bats so that it's, you can minimize that group. And now I'm going to create a new group called something like attack enemies, or kill, I guess I'll call it kill enemies, add group, kill enemies. And we are going to create an event that says, remember in the last video that a lot of people watching have not seen yet, I updated the spriter file of the player. The player character is animated in spriter, and I added a collision box to his attack animation. And his attack box is here in the subfolder for all of the sprites for that spriter character. And this is the one, right? So we're going to check is overlapping another object, and bat is the one we want. So if the hero's attack box is overlapping the bat, then we are going to immediately make the bat spawn an explosion, FG.
Are you
Yep.
sure you don't need to? Do you need to tweak that attack box?
I don't. Oh well. I
mean, I know a thing or two about.
Are you calling me out for never having graduated from my own school? That's kind of embarrassing to do right in this video, but I see how things are now. I thought we were friends. That's okay. So after we spawn the explosion, we are going to destroy the bat at the same time, so we can't like double up on collisions. Let's see, destroy. And eventually, in probably a following video, we'll start importing sound effects and making the sound effects play at the appropriate times, but we won't be getting into that now because I don't have the sound effects handy. So that's it for now. We've got it exploding and destroying. Let's see if everything is working so far. And I'm going to save, of course. Oop. Yeah, it's okay. Here it comes. So here I am walking around. Oh, I forgot that. Oh yeah, I did make the attack animation play. Boom. So there it is. It's that easy. So now what we're going to do. Currently, the HUD is just placeholder art. I do have on the Amiga end of things, I have the separate art pieces needed to make the HUD function, but I do not have that yet here. However, just to continue adding some functionality, we are going to make I'm going to just sort of black this out, at least make it almost invisible. So that I can add an actual text object for now, just to get the logic working for the score. So I'm going to leave this part, but I'm going to blacken out those zeros to replace it with a font, an actual text object, I mean. So let's see. Make it black, make it slightly semi-transparent, so we'll do 200, I guess. And we'll just scribble in there. Wow, it's almost invisible on my screen. I don't know about yours. Alright.
Yeah, it looks totally gone to me.
Alright. Well, let's see. So now we want to be on the HUD layer. Double click. And for now I'm just going to use, there's also really nice bitmap font support, which obviously we're going to want to do. But I did not create that bitmap font image yet, so we're just going to go with a regular text object. And we're going to make it a smaller font by a little bit. And we're going to make it white. So Arial black, I guess we'll go 10. And then, okay, here's the color. So we're going to make that white. There we go. We're going to shrink the size down. I'm going to put that right there just for now. And in fact, now that I have that set up decently, I'm going to clone that object and put another one for hit points. So we'll name this one HP, and we'll call this one score. Alrighty, and so now we shall create a global value called score and another one called hit points. Makes sense, right?
Yep.
Alright, let's go back into game events, and up here I'm going to right click and choose add global variable. It will be a number. Its initial value will be 4, and that's going to be hit points. And that's done. And then we're just going to copy and paste that, and then change this to score, and also make that a number, and it's going to start at 0. Alright, so now, excuse me, we're going to just quickly add a group, add group, update HUD, and for now we're just going to do text HP. Oh, I have another text in there somehow. I accidentally created another one. Oh yeah, those were automatically created when I created a retro style project. I need to delete this and this later on. Those are not things we need. Not that it's a big deal, but let's see. So HP, so we're going to set the text. Where's that option? Oh, right, no, we want always. Sorry about that. So every tick, we're going to set the HP text, set text, and then we're going to set this to, we need to convert a number to a string, so we do str parentheses, and then within that parentheses we go system, hit points. Okay? And then we're going to do the same thing, so I'm going to copy and paste, but then I'm going to replace object here and make it the score text instead of the HP text. You can see it's swapped it out. And then we're going to set its text to, I double clicked on that in the parentheses so I can replace it, and we're going to do score. And now when we are, I'm going to save because I'm paranoid, we are going to add, we'll say 10 arbitrarily. We're going to add 10 to hit points. So add 2 hit points, 10. So, oh no, I don't want hit points, I'm sorry. Boy, I'm tired. You don't want to add to your hit points, you want to add to your score.
Alright.
Yeah. See, they don't teach you that in hitbox school, like scores and... Look, we stay focused to give you the best possible education for hitbox tweaking.
Yeah, that's its own.
They don't distract you.
Master's
You know,
degree.
yeah, we're not
So-
like those stupid colleges that waste your time forcing you to take like English and math and stuff like that. It's purely hitbox adjusting, or as we say, the well-trained professionals tweaking.
Yes.
You know, if you don't use the lingo, then you'll be outed as a poser. Alright, so, oops, I forgot what key. Sorry about that. How do I punch? There it is. Okay, it's the A key. A for attack. How could I have forgotten? I can reset like this. So, alright. And my score went up, but the text font is misaligned. Did I put it in the wrong layer or something? Or did I just... let's see. It is in HUD. That seems correct. And the HUD layer does not parallax. So why does it look mostly aligned here, but then when it shows up in the game, it was not aligned? That's weird.
Yeah, that's very
I've
strange.
never seen that issue before. I don't know. Well, was it too high or too low?
It was too high.
Too high, so we'll make it like this. And like this has never been a problem with the bitmap font, and I don't use the regular ones too often, so it'll be a non-issue once we replace it with the correct objects once I have more time. Oops. Oh, well, it's a little closer. The 4 is good now. Oops. Get back here, you. Get back! Oh. Anyway, we can tell it's working. That's the important thing. So now I need to double check. I need to load the spriter object and see if we gave him a hit animation yet. No, we did not, and I don't think I had the art for the hit, so I'm just going to make something ugly but functional for now. So I will in fact take I'll just copy the idle animation, I guess. So I'll clone that animation, double click, hit. Let me think. Oh, apparently my caps lock is on. Hit front. We're going to do hit front and hit back. Actually, to save memory and stuff, I think we'll just go the Castlevania route and have him just flip around if his inertia sends him the other way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Alright, so we'll just go hit, and then actually I really should create a new piece of art. Let me think. Alright, I'll just add to this hit and I need to make sure the hit animation is not looping. And right now it's going to take a full second, which is too long, so I'm going to make that like a half a second, which is 500 thousandths of a second. Apply length, I make sure I'm on 0 on the timeline, and I'm just going to add, we'll add this, just so we know it's playing the proper animation. Right. And, okay, that's it for that. So we have hit with lowercase, and
it looks like some kind of intense crying.
Oh yeah, like a exaggerated anime crying. I'm also going to lean him backwards. Why not? Like, we can't do this obviously in the final version of the animation, but this is just so we can see for sure what's going on. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to save it again as a scan. I need to save as both formats for the spriter import to work in Construct 2. So now that that is done, I'm going to minimize, and I'm going to go back to the spriter layout, and I'm going to re-import this spriter object, and it's going to ask me, are you sure it already exists? Do you want to update it? And I'm going to pick yes, and pick the spriter events. And then I need to remember to go in there and delete the old uninitialize event. So now my spriter object is updated, and he now has a hit animation. So now we can go, oops, that's the spriter one. We need the game events. I'm going to save my progress again. And I'm going to do, so this is update HUD. And kill enemies, this should be in here. Oops. There. Hey. So now we're going to create a group called Get Hurt. Alright. And we are going to do if the bat on collision with another object, if the bat collides with the player box, remember we're using this object to control the player's movement and control his position. And we can use it for general hit control. Actually, no, I forgot. We did give him a specific hitbox. That way, if his frame changes shape and size drastically in his given animation, then he'll get hit accordingly. So we'll actually use that. So on collision with another object, and we are going to replace that with hero sprites, and it's this box here. So just to show everyone what I'm talking about, every frame of every animation has this box in here, and that box can change shape if needed. Like here, where is it? Jump, where he's up higher. If we wanted to, we can be really exact with that and do that, which why not? You know what I mean? Fall is fine. So everything else is fine. And I'll save this so the next time we update, it will be updated. But it's not urgent. That's a very minor tweak. Save project as. There we go. All right. So now what we are doing is, if the bat collides with the player, now what we're going to do is we have to check some other things too. We need to check. We're going to. All right, let's see. We'll do this first. We need to add another behavior to the spriter object itself, which is this box here, hero.scml. We're going to add a behavior. I've never tried this before, I don't think. Maybe I have. Let's see if this works. But I think there's a flash. Let's see. I forgot I added all of those plugins, which makes it harder to find. Is it called Flash? Yes, excellent. Type search to the rescue. All right, so if we look at Flash, all right, no behaviors, that's fine. No parameters, basically. So if he gets hit, and now we can add another condition and make it so that the hero spriter object is flashing, and we're going to negate that. So invert. So if he's not flashing and there is a collision that happens, then we are going to make the hero change his animation to hit and play from start. That's important. And we're also going to set, do you remember we created that variable in the box, the control box in the previous video called stuck and move? So we want him to be stuck in move, so we're going to set that to 1. And then we're going to make another event just while I'm thinking about it that says hero on animation finished, hit, we need to unstick him. So we're going to, I don't want to add one to stuck and move. I just want to set it to 1. Sorry about that. Set value. There we go. Stuck and move to 1. And then we're going to copy and paste that, drag it down here, and we're going to set stuck and move to 0. So when he's done playing the hit animation, he has full control back. And then what we also need to do is back up here, when we're changing his animation, we're going to make him hop a little bit. So we're going to play our box, and we're going to set vector y to something like -60. We're going to have to tweak that, but that basically makes him start moving upward, like he jumped a little bit when he got hit. And so this will all work now, but it does nothing for a couple of things. You'll still be able to control him while he's getting hit, and he won't have any horizontal movement from being hit, but we'll add that stuff next. So here we go. We're going to play to test if it's all working so far. And now I will not punch. I'll just let myself get... Oh, I'm in the wrong... I forgot I was in the wrong layout. So I need to be here and then run it. So I'm going to get myself hit. And he should hop up a little bit and play that animation, and now I'm back to regular animation. So it's all working. As you can see, the hop wasn't high enough as far as I'm concerned. Well, he's got a very sensitive stomach, and when enemies assault him, it really bothers him. It's understandable. There we go. It's a little better, but I'll still want it to be higher. So we'll go 140, and that'll be good enough. I will then. The next thing I'm going to do is make it so you can. So let me try to control it while I'm up in the air. Yeah, you could say I can keep controlling my horizontal movement while I'm up in the air, which is not good. I probably can't punch though. Let's see if I can throw a punch out of my hit animation. I'm almost certain that won't be the case. Oops, I jumped the gun there. Nerves. No, I cannot. It waits till it's done. That's excellent. Okay, so and that's because the attack prompt, it checks if you're stuck in move yet, as you see there. Stuck in move equals 0. Here it is. Stuck in move equals 0, A is pressed. So because stuck in move is stuck in 1 when you're hit, then you can't throw a punch out of it. You have to wait till you're done playing your ouchie animation. Alright, so now what we need to do is we can go into the player box, since he has the platform control behavior. As you can see, we can oh, that's scroll 2, sorry, hold on a second. Set ignore input, right? So now start ignoring. So while you're playing your hit animation, you can't do anything, right? So you won't be able to control left and right movement. Go ahead.
So the stuck in move variable doesn't work for the left and right movement? Like you have to do something different for that?
Yeah, the stuck in move variable is my own invention. It's like a state machine. Like it's just keeping track of, in general, am I stuck in the middle of something, or can I do my usual stuff like throw a punch, or if I'm on the ground, jump? Like that's not a built-in feature of the game. It's just a variable that I'm using as a little state machine. Right.
Okay. So right now, stuck in move is simply being. It's not really restricting anything itself. It's just
right. I'm using it exactly
as an informative.
Right. Exactly right. It's my own variable that I used, and I'm checking manually to see. Like I decide when that state is true and when not by setting it when I trigger specific animations and things like that. And so the game by default, the engine, Construct 2, like, has no idea what I'm doing. It just knows I set a variable, I change the variable, and I'm checking for that variable. But in this case, in the platform behavior movement, you can literally tell it, start ignoring the control and then stop ignoring the control, which is perfect for when your enemy is so stuck in the middle of something like dying or getting hit that you don't want the player to be able to control him at all until he's done with that animation.
Okay.
So, let's see. There's that. So but we need to make sure that when he's done with this hit animation, we turn back on his controls. So now he's got that. But the other thing we need to do, we need to let me see. What's the best way to do this? His inertia is set very high, so I think I'm going to do a variable. 1 second. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to add another variable. Is this layer locked? Yes, it is. Oops, that's not the right one. This is. So now I'm going to add another one, and this is going to be called X hit speed. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it so I'm going to add a sub-event. Sub-events are awesome. And I'm going to check the relative position of the bat enemy to the player. So if that bat enemy, that is what we were doing the collision check for, we're going to compare its x coordinate. So we're going to say if its x coordinate is greater than, which is going to be on the right hand side, if its x coordinate is greater than the position of the player box's x coordinate, so now we know that in this case it's on the right hand side of the player hitting it, so there should be a leftward inertia. So because of that, we are going to take this box and we're going to set the value of x hit speed, and we're going to make it a negative number because that would be movement to the left. And we'll say 200, who knows. And this might be way too much. You might go flying off the screen, but we'll see. So there's that, and then we're going to copy and paste the sub-event, and we're going to go, okay, now we're going to check is less than, player box. So this will be on the left-hand side, so it'll be right-hand movement. We're going to set the X speed to 200. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add another event that says if the heroes compare current animation. So if he is playing his hit animation, then what we want to do is we're going to go into here and we're going to set the X, the vector X, which is the X speed of the platform movement. We're going to make that match this variable. So it'll automatically move left or right during the entire hit animation, if that makes sense, hit speed. But the other thing we're going to do is we are going to make the, let's see, and then so I'm going to add a sub event, add sub event, and this is going to say every so many fractions of a second so that the timing is consistent. So this is going to be every, we'll say, that's 100th of a second, I think. Yeah, 10th, 100th, yeah, okay. So every, in fact, I'll make it every 5. No, I'll make it every 100th of a second. So we're going to, we're going to manipulate. We're going to reduce the size of that number. We're going to bring it down. We're going to like slow down his inertia, basically. So we're going to set value exit speed to exit speed times 0.7. So it's going to get reduced to 70% of itself every 100th of a second, if that makes sense. We'll make it, I think that might slow down too fast, so we'll do, this is all guessing, and of course you just tweak the numbers after trying it until you get it so it feels right. And then on hit finished, I'm just going to tidy things up, and we're going to set the X speed. Just to be tidy, I'm just going to set it to 0, if that makes sense. I don't think it's relevant to the code, to the logic currently. Like, it wouldn't have any effect if it stayed a number for a length of time, but I don't like leaving sort of loose ends. I thought I ran it, didn't I? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to get hit and see what happens. Oh, there was movement, but it got rid of the movement too quickly. So, let's see. That would be presumably this. So I'm going to make it every 10th of a second. That's much better. Not perfect, but we're getting there. But like, I'm not going to, really labor on tweaking those numbers until it feels perfect. I'm just going to get it to work and then move on to the next thing. Let's see. I should test. Is there a way to do that, though? I'm going to need to spawn. So let's make it so that these bats can come from the other side, too. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make these things invisible so that you'll never see them in the game. And then I'm going to, let me see. Why not? I'll make it a separate object. So we have bat spawner. This is right, because it's on the right-hand side. And I'm just going to clone the object. And then I'm going to load it up, and I am going to flip that image. So this will be bat spawner left. So now that we have that, what we can do, like, we'll put one up here, right? And I guess about something like this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to copy the spawning event, but I'm going to right-click the whole event so the whole thing is orange, which means everything is selected. and I'm going to replace object, and I'm going to replace that bat spawner with the other one, right? And then we need to change this, which is really important. We want greater or equal, and we want viewport left. Wait a minute, do we? No, that we don't. We want this to stay the same, in fact. Sorry about that. Great. What was it, for less or equal?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it like that for now, and then we're going to spawn it, but we're not going to change its angle of movement, and we're not going to mirror it, right? Because that's its default, is going from left to right anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now we should have this. Oh no, this. By the time this is synchronized with here. Oh yeah, that's a little weird. It should be viewport left. I'm sorry. So greater or equal, viewport left, and we'll do -32. And yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So now, and in fact, we will make it visible just so we can see the logic working for now.
Mm-hmm.
So, here we are. Just trying to go for a nice walk. Trying to get left alone. Oh, where's the box? Interesting. I thought I made it visible. Something's not right. Is this on the wrong layer? No, it's on FG, so it should be scrolling.
It might just be too far down.
Visible.
Maybe you just didn't get to it.
Oh, maybe I didn't walk that far yet. Okay, let's try again. All right. Oops. How nice, a double hit. That actually tested. No, something's wrong.
It's gone.
Why is that? That is really weird. I'm sure someone out there that's watching this video sees what I'm doing and is questioning my intelligence. And, all right, let's see. I'm going to put it right here so we can see what happens. Is it somehow destroying itself? Is it? No, it worked. Ah, I see.
It's just spawning
my math is my logic is broken, so it's immediately doing its thing. Okay, that does make perfect sense. So the problem is indeed here. So let me think. This should be. So let's.
less than.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Yeah, there we go. That should work.
What a I was gonna do a Beavis and Butthead impersonation. You know what I was gonna say. Ouchie. I like getting juggled by that bat. That's pretty cool. There it is. And once it hits the left side of the screen, we should see a bat soon. Hey, there it is. Oh, that's right. You know why? Because we're thinking of this as viewport left. It's actually this.
Right.
So
right.
because
that would take some adjustment.
Because those buffers automatically exist, we don't need to do the +32 and the -32, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would say just leave it.
Without
right
those, it'll be much better. Yeah. All right, save. So it's mostly working. And again, these are things we can tweak when we're that far along that we really want to start polishing specific things. But right now, I like the idea of just getting, okay, I'm going to try to beat this bat coming the other way. Yeah. All right. So now, one thing we did not do is when you get hit. So get hurt. When you get hurt by him, what we're not doing is subtracting from hit points.
Right.
So that's right here when you hop up, and also I still think he's not. Oh no, actually it felt pretty good because I got juggled. So I must be going up high enough, I think, in general when I get hit. So all we got to do is, that's a global value, so it's in here, and we're going to subtract from hit points 1. So now, since the previous video ended, we fixed the borders. And we have the ability to start to design a level by deciding exactly where and when enemies get spawned. And of course we need to hide that, make it invisible again. So now we can actually start to design really basic levels. So I think this is a pretty good place to end this video. In the meantime, in time for the next video, I think I'll round up the sound samples for the explosion and the character getting hurt. Oh, one more thing actually. Do you have the energy for one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, cool. So I'm going to go back to that. It's just something I had prepared the art for, and it's a really simple thing, so we might as well. In fact, it's extremely similar to the explosion. So I'm going to go to the sprite layer, since that's where we're putting it, and I'm going to clone, because that way I don't have to waste time. I already have this set up, the fade. So I'm going to clone object type, double click, and we're going to go in here and import frames from files. And we have this 3-frame dust cloud. And I'm just going to delete this. And I'm going to tweak the hotspot so that there's a little bit of movement. Something like that is fine. And then, so the duration, this will divide more evenly by 60. So let's say it lasts a half a second. Oh, it would just be 10, wouldn't it? That would be 30 60ths of a second for all 3 frames. Yes, that is a half a second. Okay. And then we're going to rename this to dust. And we are going to, so the fade is all set. It's already a half a second. So all we need to do is go back to the gameplay events and just make a little thing, and we'll add this to the player animation. I'll just, let's see, we'll add it right on top above, and we're going to do, in the platform movement, there's those really cool triggers, animation triggers, so we just need on landed. So as soon as it lands, we're going to make the player box spawn another object, and it is going to spawn the dust on layer FG. And that should be it. So now when we run the level, now we should have the little dust when he lands on the ground. Nice, there it is. That last frame hangs around too long by the looks of it, but that's something we can tweak easily. You know, the timing and figuring out the math properly when I'm not too tired to do math. And right now he jumps way too high, like for a normal jump, and he's a little too floaty. But those are all things we can tweak later. Ooh, jump attack.
I would actually say that 90% of game development is
tweaking the numbers. Absolutely. Get the logic to work. That's the easier part. Like from a game design sense, it's just what makes a game fun or not is really how the interaction and, you know, sort of simulated physics feel in a very superficial sense. By no means real physics, but you know what I mean. Just like how floaty are you when you jump, how much inertia do you have when you slide. All of those sorts of things are really critical to how nice a game feels. But anyway, we're doing good. Oh, if you look, when you throw a punch, you can just keep walking. Which
he's ice skating.
Yeah, that looks a little weird. I have to double check what I did about that in the Amiga version. But I think we'll handle that next time. Yeah. So, let me reset and get hit. I want to make sure that the HUD, your health, that text, that placeholder text goes on. Yes, it does.
Yep.
Look at that. I'm a dead man. Dead man bouncing. That was pretty awesome. Oh, that's why. You know what? I never told it when he's hit and he's bouncing. I checked if he was flashing, but I never make him flash. I never set flashing on when you get hurt. So there was something else I needed to do. Alright, so now we are going to do hero. And now we'll see if the sprite object actually updates properly visually and flashes. I don't remember if I ever tested that. I think I did with Cyberjack, but I'm not positive. 1/10 of a second, duration 1 full second. Let's give him... Shall we give him 2 seconds of invulnerability time?
Sure.
Alright, so let's see how this looks now. And your screen share might not be smooth enough to really pull this off, but hopefully on the recording, on the video for everyone else, they'll see it properly. Nice. And yeah, that felt very good. And now I can't get juggled. That felt like the perfect amount of time, at least very close. So very cool. So we're starting to get actual gameplay, and now we can design actual gameplay. So we need to get more art in, get the sound effects in. I'll make a larger level map, and we'll start to get in the real art for that tree and stuff like that. Yeah, and the real art for the HUD and a bitmap font for the score. So I'll try to get all that stuff prepared for the next video we do of this, so that it'll just go really quickly and smoothly to, you know, take this game to the next level and start to get it really, what exists so far, get it really functional. And then we can start, the really fun thing will be getting in other enemy types, and especially the different power-ups that fly overhead. Oh, and the other thing, the touch controls. I want to create the code and the art, get it in place so that you can actually, in the game, seamlessly switch between keyboard control, control pad control, or the touch control.
Okay.
So I'll set that stuff up ahead of time, the artwork for it, and then we'll decide what we want to tackle first in the next video. But anyway, smooth going, as everyone can see who watch this video, especially if you're not really tired like I am. Construct 2 is just in Construct 3, which is more of the same goodness. There's a few reasons I'll get into some other time why we're currently using Construct 2, but it's just a fantastic, very easy to use and very easy to learn authoring system that lets you get your game up and running incredibly fast, and that way you can really focus on the art and design aspect of things. But anyway, So that's it. We're gonna sign off, I think. Any last thoughts, Corey? No?
No, I guess not.
Anyway, so we're gonna sign off now. Thanks very much for watching.